what does it mean to you to move from 3D to 5D?
I believe we're all going to be forced to change one way or another, and some people don't understand that. So it'll feel for them like they feel like they're being dragged into this change, and they might try to bring in new addictions and new denialism and new gossip and complaining and whatever to keep it down more. I had been a stand-up comedian starting at 12 and really probably ended about 32. So it was a really interesting thing because what I realized from letting go of that is that you can have a dream in your childhood and you can outlive your childhood dream. You can literally go, okay, there's something in me that feels there's more trying to happen. And I think one of the reasons was in the comedy world, the big lie that I was in, and I noticed many comedians were in, and almost all of society is in, is the lie of when something happens, I'll be happy. Our collective trauma and our individual traumas are trying to come to light because they're not the truth. You're seeing from a bigger lens, you're brighter. This is a great time, because I think one of the reasons we're on this planet in this time is we're here to learn.
Are you ready to shine? Shine bright. Woohoo! Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wondered what the shift is going on and how to vibrate above the fray, then do we have the Evolving Out Loud Kyle Cease show for you. Today, I'll be speaking with Kyle Cease, former #1 ranking comedian, New York Times bestselling author, and transformational teacher, coach, and leader. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about what's going on in the world, how to transform our inner landscape, and shift dimensions to a higher plane. So welcome back to the show, Kyle. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine. Woo, woo.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we could do even better than that. I'm challenging you. Give me a second woohoo, Kyle.
Woo!
All right. I think we overblasted the mic there for pure goodness. All right, going from that woohoo, before we dive right into things, do you think there's going to be more chaos in the months ahead, Kyle?
Well, I absolutely think there's going to be chaos, but I also think if you understand what's going on, there's going to be a lot of freedom, growth, expansion, healing, love, and magic. So I really believe the factor of what every person's going through has to do with if they understand a little bit more what they're going through. In other words, I believe we're all going to be forced to change one way or another, and some people don't understand that. So their patterns are falling apart, but they think that's them. So it'll feel for them like they feel like they're being dragged into this change. And they might try to bring in new addictions and new denialism and new gossip and complaining and whatever to keep it down more. But what's happening in my eyes is our collective trauma and our individual traumas are trying to come to light because they're not the truth. And if you are doing inner work, you're meditating, you're participating with it, you're allowing yourself to move more and more into what you truly are, you make space for what you're not to fall out of you. And so if that's the case, you'll be participating with this, and this could be really amazing. If you're in this going, what's trying to emerge? What am I about to become? What am I here to let go of? What am I about to see? This is going to be amazing. But a lot of people don't know what's going on. So their patterns that are falling apart, they think is them. And so that's kind of going to be some of the split right now. It's based on literally awareness of what's happening. So that'll create either this is so exciting, I'm becoming a butterfly, or I'm being forced into a cocoon and I'm a caterpillar and I'm not here to go into cocoons because I don't get that I'm a butterfly. So some people think this time's death and some people think it's birth.
Ooh, I would even say that it's both. It is a death of the old to make way for the new. But kind of, if I go Kyle Cease 101, and I'm jumping way ahead of things, if we try to predetermine the outcome of this time, in many ways, I think it will be death, or maybe we could even call it pain if we try to hold on to how we perceive things need to be.
And I'm going to even put that in the positive. In other words, like if you're attached to an outcome even that's positive, then there's not full surrender, right? Like even I've for my, the last 5 years been saying we're going to be moving into this 5D magical thing. And I believe we are, but I also can feel myself attached to the excitement of that. And it goes, God's like, do you want to learn real surrender where you're not surrendering to get this guarantee of some new world that's birthing, but really surrender so I can get what's not you out of you, so you can feel truly at the highest level, so you can surrender for real. Could you undo even now your attachment or your knowing of what's coming so that you really learn surrender? Because I think one of the reasons we're on this planet in this time
Yeah.
is we're here to learn surrender. I do believe this time is the purging of control, of egoic control. That's really a character that we have that's sitting on top of trauma. Like we want to control things so we don't feel trauma from our childhood again, right? So if I can make that person not leave me, then I won't feel abandoned like when I was 6, right? These are all little lies that we could open our hearts and listen to the now and be there for the one that felt abandoned, unseen, unloved, whatever. And you can lose this false you that is based on control. And in this time, to move into a higher dimension, we purge control and we move into surrender in this time. And then you move into this kind of God you, this higher you, this now you. And that you is just full of love. And you're not attached to all of the things in physical reality because they're all passing. And you move much more into the oneness of what you are, which is a real legit thing. And I find I do that for me through purging through tears.
Yeah.
I really love to be there for the inner child that is, healing from my childhood wounds and just be there for him and bring love to him. And he'll just have a moment where he's like, I feel alone, I feel lonely, I feel unloved, and it'll just become tears and it'll permanently leave. So it's really exciting. And you go, oh, I'm even more what I truly am, even though I've never seen this me. This me is more exciting. And so don't trick yourself, by the way, into the familiar old world is what you actually are, right? So where we're moving is unfamiliar, but that doesn't mean it's not more what we truly are.
So I want to thank you so much. I want to dive first into your story so we can get a little backstory of letting go. But before I did that, and we may get to me and put me on the couch a little while later. Um, but 2 days ago, was it midday or something? And as we're recording this, full disclosure for everybody, we're going through the supermoon lunar eclipse. So it is a very watery time for everybody. Although I'm convinced it's going to continue to be watery, meaning we're going to be doing a lot of clearing through the end of 24. And I'm convinced it's going to get even more powerful in 2025 until we let go of so much and let go of that power and control structure and all of that. But 2 days ago, I don't remember what I was doing. I think I got up from my computer. No, I closed my computer and I just started crying. And I heard myself say to myself something that was really shocking because it's not anything that I consciously believe at all. It was, what have you done with your life? And that was coming from a wounded child that was looking at me and doesn't understand anything that I'm doing. And that's what you're talking about. The wounds are coming out to play at this time so that they can be cleared, so that they can be healed.
Yes, well, and one of the things I think that's shifting is our identification with ourself based on what we do versus what we are. So what have you done with your life actually sounds like an older dimension kind of shame sentence to me, right? That might have been a thing that you felt that we all felt in different ways in our childhood. I have to become something so I don't get hurt or so I get my parents' approval. Right. So we've been trained in the old world that what you are is what you do. So the highest form we know is that you are how you contribute as far as your job. Are you getting seen? You have to do something with your life. That's kind of that old cliche where parents are pressuring their kids to become doctors or lawyers. You need to do something with your life because the undertone of that is you're not existent, worthy, or anything
Bingo.
if you don't do. And that doesn't make any sense. It's almost like it's such a F you to God to say that your value and your purpose is based on what egoic construct career you have or how much money you make. And it's funny to say that your existence in itself, I think Bashar had said this before, your existence is your worthiness, right? And that's so true. It doesn't make any sense that you're only worthy of something based on what you did. Now, that doesn't mean don't do something, but first let's find the love for what we are. That us can do so much more. But if you move the hierarchy to I am what I do, to I'm loved for what I am, then you will move up in love versus the old do, which is out of trauma. You better do something so you're not a failure. You better do something so your mom doesn't shame you or say, I told you so. These are traumas and these are old energies that don't need to be here anymore because they don't represent the truth of what you are. One of the things we have to remember is you're God's kid or the now's kid. We came from our parents, but if you're your parents' kid, then you're their trauma's kid. Like you're the
Oh my.
conditioning and the ego patterns that they got because they might not have done the same inner work that you're doing now. And so you had to pick up their computer program from like the 50s and then put that in your system and create the egoic response to them. These don't make sense. It's like you're a computer, but you think you're Windows 95. But in this case, Windows, your childhood, Windows 77 or Windows, 50 is your parents' childhood. It's an unconscious chain. And so, one of the reasons we're on this planet in this time, in my opinion, is to move into the truth of what you are and transcend the cycle of ancestral patterns of shame, abuse, pressure, and false conditional love that's based on I love you because you worked so hard or got straight A's. You're loved, period. No matter what you've done, no matter what you think of yourself, that has to be received, and then you can cry out or release these lies that you are what you do. And from there, you'll be shocked at what wants to be done through you when these channels are clear because they're not full of I am what people think of me, which is forming I am what I do.
You gave me a flashback of being on the couch. I've been trying racing in France, trying to make it to the Tour de France. I got hit by a car. I spent weeks in the hospital. I get out of the hospital. I get released. I'm home. I'm a kid, like 21 years old. I'm on my parents' couch. First time back home from college in years. And after a week or two, my mom is telling me, you better do something with your life and kicking me out of the house as I'm healing to go get a full time job and get back in school at the same time while I'm trying to heal on the couch. That is just an example of the old system of you are what you do. And if you don't, then you're not.
What that can create, I didn't have that energy in my mom, but I did, even though I love my mom and felt very supported in certain ways from my mom, I felt very much like if I showed her that I got a gig, she would say mainly, "What's it pay?" And to me, that was the measurement in my
Yeah.
egoic construct, right? That look, it pays well, so now I'm worth something, right?
Yes.
If it was a gig that even was on national television but didn't pay, I'm not worth anything, right? So these patterns don't the beautiful thing is within nature, the patterns of what you just described don't make any sense as far as truth. We've all said yes to it and agreed on that you are what you do, or you are how much money you have, or you are your victim story, or your, achievement story. But in the world of nature, there's no stars going, that star is more famous or more amazing or more successful than that star, or these dozen roses. Well, these 8 roses are worthless. They're on rose welfare. And this one is really amazing because it achieved so much. It's just like they're all beautiful, and we don't give those or animals that you are what you do, and but we just put it on ourselves. And this is why if you chill in nature long enough, I find, or you're in a meditative state long enough, or you don't grab on to everyone else's social media and look at this false agreement, these lies will just be healed, especially in this time. They have to. Because the old way of forcing yourself to make mom happy doesn't even work anymore. Like the people that are using forced effort, they aren't making money anyway. Everything's collapsing because it's not the truth.
Well, we get to go there. Before we go there, though, let's take you back to when you did have a comedy career. Maybe you can tell us real briefly about the comedy career, but how you were able to take that leap, because that's what we're talking about here. That all of my past programming that says I have to do, I have to achieve, I have to earn, I have to.
Right. Because and have to just doesn't work anymore. I mean, for me, I had been a stand-up comedian starting at 12 and really probably ended about 32. So probably 20 years as a stand-up comic. And it was a really interesting thing because what I realized from letting go of that is that you can have a dream in your childhood and you can outlive your childhood dream. You can literally go, okay, there's something in me that feels there's more trying to happen. And I think one of the reasons was in the comedy world, the big lie that I was in, and I noticed many comedians were in, and almost all of society is in, is the lie of when something happens, I'll be happy. And a moment that this really showed up for me was I remember being in a car with a couple other comedians on our
Yep.
way to a gig. And one comedian looked at another comedian and said, "Dude, I saw you're doing that huge festival. I'm totally jealous." And the other guy said, "Well, I saw your college schedule and it's amazing and I wish I could have that." And I realized both wished they had the other one's career. And I know that if they switched, they would have said it again the other way. And there's a lie that there's more later and there's more somewhere else. And the big lie in the world that is dying in this time is when something happens, I'll be happy because many of us think I need that thing and then I'll finally be something. And one of the best things to end that lie is to get it because the second you get it, you start to go, I'm still not happy. And in the comedy world and in the movie world, I did some movies and TV and different things. I always thought when this gig happens, I'll be happy. And then I would get the movie role and think, okay, when if I just my part stays in, I'll be happy. And then my part stays in and I go, okay, as long as the movie's a hit, I'll be happy. And then it's a hit. And then I go, okay, as long as it's number one or I get a new movie. And I noticed that the more I got what I wanted, the more addictive and loud and almost scared the pattern was give me the next thing. And so even when you got the next thing, you stay addicted. And I know that everyone here watching right now is thinking, when I get that, I'll be happy about something. When I get out of bankruptcy or divorced or whatever. And I have discovered through achieving those things, it's not it. It's very fleeting. The things that are fulfillment for me seem to be in letting go now, where I let go of something and feel a lie inside of me fall out that was attached to whatever I let go of. And I feel it's suddenly replaced with light and love and magic. And so at one point, I let go of stand-up comedy and didn't know what I would do, but I just was finding God through that process and letting go of what I thought that I'm supposed to have to be happy and would just be present and suddenly miracles would replace it like synchronicities and miracles and magic because it was my story at one point to have my comedy career, but at one point higher showed up and said, what if you left this? And what if bigger is trying to happen? And it was. I had no idea that from 2010 till now, I'd be able to help myself heal, help other people heal, get letters from people thanking me for shifts that they had due to books that I wrote or different things. I had no idea that that leap would
Yep.
include the my daughter. I would have been on a different journey, right? I had no idea it would include my fiance. I had no idea all these different things, amazing people that I work with and I'm so close to, my team, my life, everything, the big shift I'll never forget. I was with my friend Diego in 2010 and we were talking about letting go. And he said a sentence that really changed my life. I said, should I let go of this thing? And he said, I don't know. But the only thing I know is that when you let go of something, the only reason you stress is your mind can measure what you will lose and it won't see what you gain. And our pain is that we're focused on what we're losing and we don't understand what we're gaining. So when you go through a breakup and you're focused on that person, you might not be focused on what you're gaining. When you let go of an old career, you're in the I don't know world. But if you open and receive, you make room now because you're not holding on to the old energy to receive much higher. So this whole career birth, New York Times bestselling author birth, I mean, giant theaters, much bigger theaters filled as a speaker combined with comedy than when I had the guarantee of comedy. So there was a letting go, but a receiving of the higher energy from the letting go. And the next thing I know, I'm speaking at Michael Beckwith's events, and I'm being asked by spiritual speakers to speak at their events. And my own unique field was birthing of comedy and transformation together. And That's why I really believe letting go is the answer. Everything you can feel that's not an expansive 10 in your life, if you're holding on to it, you're keeping an old small story that isn't you, that is ready to go.
Well, so many directions I can go with this, but it's interesting. Earlier, you had brought, and thank you for sharing. Earlier, you had brought up Bashar, who was you are the act that is following Bashar this week. So we had him on last week. So you're taking things beyond Bashar, beyond Daryl. We love you, Daryl, to the next level. And where did I want to go with that? He talks about both Bashar and Daryl Anka talk about you have to, and it's something that I teach all day long. I know you do too, that we have to follow the pull on our heart. I like to say that the details are none of our damn business. We don't need to know where we're going. The mind needs to know, but we don't need to go. But if it's pulling on us, we have to go that direction. And if you're feeling really watery right now, we're often feeling watery because we're resisting. And I'm going old school Borg on us. Resistance is futile. We're fighting against going into the unknown.
Hmm. Yeah. And the resistor, I would say, is both tangible and not a real thing. Because what our real problem is we're identified falsely with a smaller self, right? So we have a smaller self that goes, I'm dead if you go into this, because some of our traumas will literally die. So whenever you have an expansive thing, the kind of analogy I use, you always feel this expansion that goes like that. It's that just that kind of 1 second thing, and it can't tell you what it would look like. But it's a question like, what if I let go of this? Or what if we just flew to Italy right now? Or what if I let go of this thing or said no to this thing that I always say yes to? Or what if I wrote the book? Whatever it is, this is a dimensional shift, right? I find that these little callings are like God going, here's the next way. It's expansive, but it can't tell you what it looks like, because if it told you the specifics of what it looks like, you're not moving based on feeling and faith. You're moving based on evidence. And so if it could spell out all the benefits, then you're going to look at that. But if you instead were to let go and just follow this feeling, what happens is the next thing that happens is the old you needs to kick in and fight. Because if you say yes to this dimension, the old you that thinks who you are the traumas from your childhood that literally created a false character that maybe achieves or prevents loneliness or whatever, it kicks in too. So every time you have a calling, here's the new world. It's an opportunity. And right when it shows up, the egoic fear shows up on the other side and comes up with why you shouldn't. And its reason is always pretty dumb. So I always give this example, but imagine this first thing that goes like, what if we leave this company? It can't tell you what'll happen, but you're going to make space for miracles if you feel that 10,
Yep.
like on a scale of 1 to 10 expansive thing. But right when you feel that, this egoic thing goes, well, if we leave the company, we can't go to the Cheesecake Factory party next Thursday. And the first voice can't tell you this, but it's like, if you learn to follow me, you could own all the cheesecake factories at one point. And the second voice is like, yeah, but they have those Thai lettuce wraps. And I really, so this negotiation is between the unknown faith-based magic that's trying to form and the guarantee of the safety survival old mechanism that's doing everything it can to fight and stay alive because it thinks that you'll die if you expand, and you won't die, you'll birth, but an old story will die at the same time. So that's why, and by the way, I will say I had achieved a bunch motivational style, heard Bashar talk in maybe 220, 20, I don't know, 2008, and started following my highest excitement. And this career manifested. So he definitely was a permission slip for me to embody that formula and find out it's the truth. And I live it fully every day, every second. I don't just use it to get somewhere and then go, okay, I'm there and that. It's like I am on this planet to know what I truly am. So every single thought is involving my expansion.
Well, as you were speaking, Kyle, I didn't know anymore if you were talking about a personal story, if you're talking about our story, or if you were talking about the story of all of humanity that we're going through right now.
Mm. I believe all of humanity. I think that some people are in denialism of it, but I think there's a reason why each person, for instance, is very angry right now. If you're in the not doing this inner work consciously, that there's people really angry. So, for instance, in the 80s when there was a presidential election, I feel like the energy was more like, I'd like that president. I'm not into that president. Right now, the polarity is so far apart that both sides see the other side as the enemy, as the darkest thing in the world. And I'm not here to get into politics, and I understand why each side thinks that. But I just want to point out the level of charge and anger that sees the other political side, whether it's Democrat or Republican. And I know there's, also independents and stuff, but they see the other side as the worst thing at one level. Like there is an anger and a splitting that could potentially invite civil war or something like that because it's so polarized, right? So
Well, it's almost the egoic battle. To jump in for a second, it's almost like if you vote for X, Y, or Z, I may be annihilated, which is actually what the ego is saying. If you let go, I may be annihilated.
yes. And it's really interesting because I've been absolutely involved with politics my entire life. And I just felt maybe a little over a week ago to fully let go of it. And it doesn't mean I won't vote. And I want people to hear that. It doesn't mean I won't be a part of the system and vote in a way. But my all-day attachment, just checking out every version of every story
Of
and looking
course.
at it, is blocking God from me birthing a higher thing. So I decided I'm letting go of my attachment to politics. And you know what I noticed in not looking up stuff for a few days? I discovered that under it was a pattern inside of my body that came to light because I wasn't shoving it back down by looking stuff up. And it was a boy inside that feels scared of the world. And I literally just started crying for 20 minutes. The world is so painful and so hard, which felt liberating. And I realized there's a world outside of me and an avatar of the world inside of me. And when I finally I heard deeply, what is this planet with all these egos and wars and really bizarre rules and bad food and poisons in the air? What is this? And I started really being honest that under the politics need to be a certain way. Under that is a scared person that's going, really, the truth is there's a pattern that I would love God to come alchemize that says the world's scary to me. And I did, and I've never felt freer. I felt so free in the last week. It felt like it's undo my attachment to an outcome now and see what real surrender does, right?
Thank you. And it brings up what we were discussing off air. For everybody who's watching this, we had a hard time getting, I'll call it a hard in quotes, time getting started because we were already riffing. I'm like, we need to get this stuff in the can. But one of the things is the epiphany that came to you, I think like half an hour before we started the show, that if you let go of that, I call it the groove in the record. If you let go of what's in the groove in the record, you're letting love and light. I use the word love, but we're letting light in to fill that groove rather than us trying to fill it ourselves.
Yes, because when we're in the smaller density or physical form, we don't think that the now is actually a tangible thing to let in. You're kind of just stuck on the physical of everything. So if a person is fasting, for instance, and they decide they're going to not eat for a couple days,
Yeah.
one reason it's hard for people to do it is they're focused on what they're not getting, right? So they're focused on, I don't have food. So they're kind of still in the frequency of the third dimension that's addicted to food. And they're just seeing, okay, I'm going to not eat. I'm going to not eat. But what if you took in actually every moment that you're not eating, you're letting light come in? And you're moving towards more light, not away from food, right? This is for people that feel safe fasting. Ask your doctor. I can't just say to do it. So if you instead allow yourself to receive the light that's replacing your addiction to something that's in physical form, then it's not that I'm letting go, it's that I'm making room for a lighter version of myself. So this morning, the epiphany I had was instead of me just thinking I'm letting go of whatever scrolling through YouTube or politics or people's opinions of me or food or whatever, I'm birthing light. And in every second, you're either bringing more light in or blocking it from coming in by staying attached to the old world. And so I find that a way to block light is to keep picking up the heavy energy. And one of the things that has made it harder in the past is just to focus on what I'm letting go of and see myself as someone letting go of that. But if instead of thinking of myself as the one letting go of, and instead see myself as receiving light and letting light that's connected to miracles, synchronicities, ideas, magic, abundance, all these things, that me will be much lighter in frequency and will effortlessly purge the old densities that were attached to the physical. So instead of seeing it as letting go of heavy, see it as receiving light and healing.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out where I love it when ideas and thoughts pop in my head because I'm here. I'm not going, what am I going to say next? I am here, but I am also here in this connection. And what I heard is, and I never get this expression right, and it's not one that I use all the time. I can't remember the last I used it. When you see the Buddha on the road, kill him, um, which means having an attachment even to a Buddha does not allow you to be enlightened in the light. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because our connection to God is direct. And we definitely have ways to God on pedestals, right? So that's a thing that is a very subtle thing to let go of, but like, yes, that sometimes it's a speaker that got you to, I mean, when I first saw Tony Robbins and shifted my life, thought Tony Robbins was the answer, right? And by the way, Tony Robbins is incredible. I'm sure not saying it like he's not in certain ways, but that a way is the answer. At one point, I went raw vegan for 90 days and changed my life. And I thought raw veganism is the answer, right? And at one point I tried to go raw vegan again for 90 days and it didn't change. And so the factor was much more that I was evolving. The factor was that I was getting closer to the God version of me. And so you can easily go, oh, like Buddha's the answer on the way that that's a thing. And that's great. By the way, I still recommend grabbing Buddha or whatever higher you need if it makes you go higher. But at one point, you can outgrow a way that made you get higher. And life goes, you're done with that ladder rung. I have a new ladder rung for you to climb. You aren't growing if you're addicted to this ladder rung that you grabbed onto in the past, right? So, yeah, that makes sense. At one point, you have to let go of the method that got you there.
Well, it's interesting. Now you're talking about addictions. We're talking about letting go of attachment. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're talking, and light is that frequency, vibration, grabbing on for the higher vibratory answer, which is, if we're honest, beyond words, beyond ideas, beyond any answer we can come up with.
My higher vibration is now here. Like, here is the new high, right? Because high things used to be things that really excited me, like, oh my God, that like made me hyper. But I realized there's I have a thing I call slot machine high or gambling high. You know, like if you get a high because you hit jackpot in Vegas, that could be the exact structure needed to make you addicted to Vegas, right?
That
That if
makes
you've
sense.
got $1 million on a slot machine, now you might live in Vegas because you want that high again. And so you're sitting there losing all the money the next day and hitting the low, right? But because you're trying to seek that high. And I used to follow the highest, giddiest, but I found that now as I keep doing this work, there's no circumstantial high that's as exciting as the now. So here is the new high for me. So I'm more here now, right? And that's the highest I can find is here because it's expansive and it's connected to the ethers and it's so much more connected to what nature is and magic and what you truly are. So I used to kind of giddy my way through things and be like, go higher and higher and higher. And I find that being really present now makes me really in the constant practice of it versus because that can be a high, an addiction, you know, just grabbing a high thing. What's this mean? What's coming? And you're just kind of still addicted to circumstances egoically, giddily. So they're necessary as ladder rungs to get you out of victimhood. But at one point, my spiritual journey goes, now surrender and listen to the now and make the now the most riveting thing.
Thank you. And then I like that term, like the term victimhood. Okay, I'll say I like the term victimhood for letting go of the victimhood this morning. So Jessica and I, we're on this massive transformation right now, and it's really cool. It's really exciting. It's really scary. It's really awesome and harrowing. All of it together as one, which is life. And so I get this email this morning. That was news that we didn't want. That I think is really, really here to help serve us. And instead of giving Jessica the news, which I did give her, I wasn't trying to lead her. I'm a storyteller, so sometimes I'm guilty of that. You may have the same challenge too. But I said, look, everything right now, right here, right in this moment. This is all that matters. This is perfect right here in this second. Who knows of anything to come? Who knows? And frankly, right now the whole world is changing so much. Our world is changing. I'm talking about Jesse and myself. Our whole world, the planet Earth, each country is changing. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Right now is what's got it going on.
I mean, what's beautiful is when you get bad news, it has to, if you're open and working on yourself and doing meditations and stuff like that, it will kill a little bit the part of you that's in an argument with what is, right? So when we resist what is, we're trying to kill the circumstance, right? So we have a pattern inside of us that says, no, life should be this way. I don't agree with this circumstance and it's not okay. And in certain ways, that's also we should in some ways change our circumstances when we can, but our war with something we can't change is us trying to kill something that can't be killed. Why would we instead not want to allow the one that's in war with the circumstance die? In other words, something's going to die when there's resistance to a circumstance. And you have much more control in a good way of letting the circumstance of trying to control a situation that says it should be the outcome I want, which by the way has trauma under it. It should be the outcome I want because then my mom will like me when I'm 5. It should be the outcome I want because then my dad won't have abandoned me, whatever, right? So I also find everything triggering you in this time is trying to show you something from before it. You're not triggered by the thing that's happening now, but it's showing you wounds from before it.
What do you do? So I have this little snow globe here. It has a shark inside of it, and we're taught to be scared of sharks. I tend to swim with sharks, but that's when I'm in Florida. But he's actually smiling. His smile is going around. What do you do? And so when I do trauma work and stuff, I say that we get to look at our wounds. We get to look at what's going on. You may actually find that it's a smiling shark. What do you do when you catch that? Aha, this is a wound from my past. This is my child screaming right now. What do you do?
I find almost every single thing that feels traumatic or limiting in my body is a lie. And I know it's my inner child, right? So what I do is I usually stop and I will listen for a while, and then it will start to tell me what hurts. And then I like to extrovert it to either a friend or my fiance, Amber, and I will just say what it's saying is, and I will literally start crying. And I will watch as the thing breaks apart and falls out of my eyes. So if I feel triggered by a circumstance, I've done enough inner work to know it's not what it is. It's like, what is this bringing up for me? I want to go deeper and I just listen and I'll start to feel heaviness. And then what I do is I say what it feels. So instead of saying what it's mad about or what it's triggered by, like if let's say someone said something about you and you feel hurt. Okay, fixing it at the level of you wish they didn't or make them apologize will be nice, but it will keep you still addicted to the circumstances because we didn't hit what it's trying to show you. But if what they said about you reminds you of something your dad said, let's say, and you listen, and then the kid inside, the trauma in the body says something like, I feel unloved because when I was 7, mom walked out or whatever, then you create a space for it to be allowed to feel that way, right? And then what I tell it is a sentence like, you're allowed to feel unloved in my body. You're allowed to feel abandoned in my body. You're allowed to feel like a failure in my body because the pattern has never heard that it's loved, even if it is a failure, that it is loved, even if it did it wrong, that it's loved, even if it feels hidden or invisible, whatever it is. So you finally become the unconditional love that the pattern has never known that it had. And then the pattern feels seen, comes to light, and you cry out and release like you're grieving. It's almost like grieving an ex or a parent, but you're grieving you and you're grieving what you were and this pattern that protected you all the way up until a new awareness has formed in you now.
It's interesting. You have an expression that we go from being your parents' kids to being God's kids. This grieving to me is the letting go of the parents' kids, the letting go of the burned in image of who and what you needed to be.
Well, and think about this, so my dad was born in 1948. That's a time before there was civil rights, before Martin Luther King, before all these things, right? Back then, phones were like the two phone handle thing, the like operator, and now you have iPhone 16, right? That can do anything, right? So if technology went from this phone, which literally had a person plugging in phones to put you somewhere, to an iPhone that can do anything, if technology can move that way, obviously consciousness also moves insanely fast too. So the consciousness of the 40s is very different than the consciousness of the now. So then I think of my dad growing up in 1948 through whatever, 1965 or something as a kid. And I'm not even wanting my dad's approval. I'm wanting the 50s approval. Do you get what I'm saying? The consciousness of the 50s was conditioned into my dad. And so I'm sitting here trying to be seen as I'm doing my own inner work or my own magic. And we want approval from our parents who come from a lower consciousness because back then you're talking Great Depression and you go back more generations, you're in slavery. This is a different time. And we are like much more in a light frequency trying to get approval. That's our struggle, is that we're trying to get approval from a lower past frequency that might not have done the same inner work that you're doing. And so it's like you're an iPhone trying to get approval from a rotary phone and it doesn't understand you. And so then we're all triggered because we keep thinking, well, they're my parents, so I'm going to shrink down to their consciousness. And if we could just receive that you're God's kid and not your parents' patterns from the 50s kid, you'll be free, right? So we open and say, God, you heal me. And then the traumas that were attached to protect yourself from that old consciousness can die.
What does it mean? And you're talking about even letting go of this concept this week. So it's interesting that I'm bringing up the concept that you may even be letting go of, but this idea, well, you're letting go of the concept because you don't want to be attached to the outcome. But what does it mean to you to move from 3D to 5D?
I guess the way I see it in my way is that there's a higher lens that you're seeing the world through. And the 3D lens doesn't understand that the traumas are movable and they're not you. So in 3D, you just become the conditioning when you formed a memory that you became in order to not feel trauma again. Right. And so in 3D, you think you are, I'm this achiever. Well, maybe you achieved because you felt hurt by a parent when you were a kid, and your body said, I don't want to feel it again. So if I get straight A's, dad won't spank me, or I won't get yelled at, or any of that. Right. So that's a very small lens because it's not the truth. And we live in a universe that is a higher dimension than that. And in a time now that says 3D won't work. The amount of clients I get that say something like, I'm hustling, hustling, hustling. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week and I still can't make ends meet financially. And I go, that's because you're hustling so much. You're not based on vibration. You're based on old effort that maybe in an earlier time, the collective was in 3D. So hustling worked in the 80s and the 70s. But now the time is going, letting go is going to make you more successful, following insights, following inspiration, letting go of these false yous. Your hustler won't do it. The harder you work doesn't, that's a godless energy. That's an
Yes.
energy sitting on top of trauma, trying, trying, trying. But God wants to get that trauma out. So if we learn to let go and surrender, we will undo the hustler, and then we will undo what the hustler was hiding, which was a wound of feeling abandoned or don't hurt me again. And then that comes out, and then that's replaced. So when the trauma comes out, it's also replaced by a new level of insight and inspiration and higher ideas and kind of things that the old you would have never thought possible. So that's trying to happen. And then that makes a higher frequency of a guided thing that will be more impactful because it'll be God working through you than a scared hustler that's worried they'll offend their mom when they were a kid. Right. So that's what's trying to happen. So 5D is the purging of that energy that's moving based on trauma that it didn't see. 5D sees bigger. An analogy I use in 5D is imagine that you have a one-story house and it's a nice, beautiful house. And one day, I would say for many of us, 2020, We discover that the rug is on top of a trap door, and the door leads down to an underground second story. There's a whole other story to your house. But because we've never looked in this place, it's an attic that's full of darkness. There's bugs and rats and dead bodies. But in this version, those dead bodies are traumas that no longer serve you, stuck stories that whatever. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is, hey, there's some traumas there that you haven't looked at. There's cobwebs down here. The good news is your lens is bigger, so you can see there's a second story, right? There's a really beautiful analogy I have with my daughter.
Yeah.
One morning we were lying down, just chilling, talking in the bedroom, and my daughter ran into the bedroom and she jumped on the bed, right? And when she jumped on the bed, some dust came up. It only was seen, where that beam of light coming through the window was, that wall of dust, right? Now, that dust is everywhere in the room, but we can only see it where there's light. And so, where there's more light, it has to show you the darkness that you didn't have the capacity to see before. That dust is everywhere, but we can only see it where there's light. So, if you're finding all kinds of darkness, the bad news is you're seeing darkness, but the really much better news is you're seeing it because your lens is bigger, because you're looking through a brighter dimension. You're becoming a higher version of light. And that's awesome news. So the dust is ready to be seen because you've moved into enough light to see it. So just by seeing it, and by the way, here's the crazy thing. This stuff does not move based on effort anymore. It moves based on seeing it. So the more you keep seeing it and listening, it'll show you where the root of the dust came from and why it's there. And you'll see the kid that's hurt and you'll cry it out. So the really good news is every time you see something in your body that feels dark, you are moving to light. You're moving up in consciousness and you're seeing darkness that's been there your whole life. You just never saw it before. So this is a fantastic time because we think, God, all this darkness and what's wrong with me? And I have all these addictions, whatever. No, 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 no. You're seeing from a bigger lens. You're brighter. This is a great time. Just understand your light is getting really big, so it's just flushing out these things.
Is that how you see all of humanity at this time as well?
Yes, and I think some people are avoiding their dust and don't want to see it. So they're just like, there's no dust there, everything's fine. Let's have superficial conversations. Let's overeat, let's drink, there's no dust, everything's fine. And like they're looking at a giant wall of a ton of dust, and they're just like, no, 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 there's no dust, and let's change the subject. And it's just like, let's gossip about that person or complain over here, or I'll grab everyone else, or I'll flip through Instagram all day and not see dust, but we're all seeing dust. And the last thing that people are the unconscious world is looking at the dust is blame. It's that other side. It's my parents' fault. It's my exes. It's all of that, right? So blame is another thing. But the second you stop being in blame and angry and just go, you know what? I'm hurting inside. This shifts. It'll move from dust that you didn't see to finally dust that you see and heal. So what's the good news is it's almost impossible now to stay in the old pattern because it's just so loud, just so chaotic. But anyone watching gets to have this amazing opportunity to understand what's going on and start going inward and leaving blame, leaving your old story, and being present with what's inside. And so I do believe all of humanity is being faced with all the dust that's inside, and some are willing totally to feel through all of it, and they're ascending rapidly and going up in consciousness and vibrating higher. And then there's some people that do not want to look at it. And that's okay, but it'll just become more painful where they'll either, deny it into the grave, or they're going to heal and go up in vibration. And the good news is the other people that are doing the work and creating a butterfly frequency is making it easier and easier for other people to heal. It's becoming normalized to do the inner work. It's becoming normalized to see the truth going on in the world. It's becoming more normal. So then you free yourself and heal faster.
Thank you. So you would call this, I'm guessing, a butterfly universe, a positive universe. Does this mean that the rising tide raises all ships, or are some people stuck behind as more, well, everybody watching this is what I call not just a wayfarer, someone on their path, but a way shower, somebody carrying the lantern. Are we carrying the lantern, and those behind are going to come along, whether it's sooner or later? Eventually, they're going to see the dust as well.
Well, one of the things I love to look at is the David Hawkins scale. I really like David Hawkins. And if you don't know about David Hawkins, he does have a scale of consciousness that goes from 0 to 1,000. And that, like, for instance, things at 175 are considered pride. And then 200 is a big crossover moment for people that if you go over 200, you move from service to self to service to others, right? And he said when he wrote, Power versus Force, we crossed over some amazing threshold back then, over 200 as a collective. What I want to offer that's really fascinating by this is the higher up one person goes, the more that they counterbalance millions that are below 200. So I don't remember the actual numbers, but like it gives an example of something like a person that goes up to 600 or 700. I don't remember the exact number. They counterbalance like 70 million people that are under 200, right? I think 700 counterbalances 70 million. So one person has according to that scale, which I believe that that scale gives me permission that the highest contribution I can give to the world is based on my vibration more than what I do. Does that make sense? And so I'd rather be a 700 and do nothing than a 500 that makes 100 million books sell.
Thank you. You just hit to me the nail on the head, the coolest thing, which is why I heard it once decades ago and I was kind of aghast. And then I read into it and I thought I understood it better, which is selfishness can be the other selfless act, which means focusing on that pull on your heart, the tug on your heart, going back to Bashar and stuff earlier, but focusing on your inner vibration, your inner healing journey, your inner ah, you become the tuning fork for so many rather than just taking out a banner and going picketing on the street, shifting that vibration inside of you by following and healing your own heart changes everyone.
100. Well, and it's really interesting because in the 3D world, the idea is I'm here to be service to others. So there's people that are completely burnt out and looking for people to be in service to. And what I mean by that is they might not be as reciprocal or wide open. In other words, there's a reason empaths often choose narcissists for a partner, is because their identity in the 3D world is I'm here to be in service. So if you're constantly giving and you're not doing the inner work and healing yourself, your polarity would be a taker. And so often these people that are giving deplete themselves and they feel like they're in service to others. But at one point you realize you're actually in fear. You're being there and people pleasing so that you don't get hurt or the person doesn't abandon you or talk bad about you or something. So you end up just kind of selling your soul and being depleted and filling everyone else's cup empty. And that people hear the service to others thing and think, well, I'm in service to others and it's not working. You're actually in service to self, called service to others, because you're depleting yourself and you're not going up in frequency. When you go up in frequency and actually be selfish for a while and follow your soul,
Yeah.
right? You might have to let go of attachment to those kind of things. And then you go up in vibration. Now your cup's full. And from there, that cup gives to the world, but it also receives. It has to receive evenly. So one of the things I offer people is a lot of type of people that watch these kind of things are people that are over givers and they have a very hard time receiving. And I offer people only if you're in that frequency, only go into relationships and friendships with people that also can see your heart as much as you can see theirs. And very often those people end up crying because they don't even know what that looks like, because they've spent their whole life giving, 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 and don't even know that the heart inside has never been even seen. And so in this time, the people that are over the line givers have to learn to receive, to go up in frequency, and then they'll be giving from a whole, which is way more of a service to others than you just exhausting yourself and depleting yourself with an energy that's just taking and not giving back.
Well, it's something I did 20, 30 years ago. Well, I'll go even more recent than that, which was, and it's been gone for at least a decade now, which is slaying myself to help others, which wasn't helping anyone because it's bringing my frequency down. And what popped in my head as you were saying this is I was in service to my wounds, masquerading as being in service to others.
Because if anyone's doing that, where they're just like completely just dying to make other people happy while they're not, there must be fear there because it's not natural. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not natural to just kill yourself, exhausted, not hear what you want to, and not be like, imagine if the inner child was a separate child, like it was your daughter, right? Imagine if you're just ignoring her and being there, for every other person and ignoring her constantly. That's what you're doing to your own inner child. And a thing that's helped me a ton is taking my 7-year-old daughter and thinking of her as what's inside of me. My inner boy is a 7-year-old that also needs to be seen and needs to be alchemized and healed and heard. And so if I'm just, you shut up while I take care of everyone else, then there's fear there. I have to do that or they'll abandon me. I have to do that or they won't like me anymore. I have to do that or they'll talk bad about me. These kind of things are fear. And when you finally go, I'll go for it and I'll let them do that if that happens, all of a sudden the one that was scared falls out and you like literally move to a new frequency that kind of leaves that whole energy and you start to feel a magic and a high and it goes, oh, that me that was doing that made them my God more than God my God. And that's what we're here to transcend and receive the real version of ourselves.
What would you define as the real version of ourselves?
I would say what I'm really enjoying right now is releasing everything I identify that I'm not. And the more I do this work, the more I think it's all that is. A thing that I think is the real version of myself is the space here right now. This space, I wake up and I'll listen to silence for an hour, usually, sometimes two, and I'll hear ideas, but I'll also feel healing happening. I'll just feel patterns come up and it'll hurt. So I'll go, this isn't me, but I'll listen to it so it can finally say, I feel alone, I feel scared, and it'll leave. So I know what I'm not. I'm not my body because my body changes, right? It changes. That can't be my body, right? I've had a small body and then a chubby body and a buff body and a skinny body. Sometimes I have all three, right? And there's no way I'm my body because it's changeable.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm my beliefs because they change. I've believed one thing, I've believed one way, a big time on a certain thing, and then believed an opposite thing. So
Yeah.
it can't be my beliefs because they're malleable and I still seem consistent with them, right? So I don't even think I'm a story as far as like I'm a dad. That definitely is an outfit I wear, but at one point I wasn't and I was still alive. So this is interesting because I'm finding the hierarchy goes when I realize that what I am is the now and it is a constant changing energy. I'm just the now. Then all the stories and structures that are stuck come to light the more I merge with the now. So I'm an infinite magical creating that's the whole universe. And if I fight for the small self, that's the story of which has been hard not to because there's positive things like, I was in that movie or on Comedy Central or all these things. Those create an identity that got a lot of human love and approval. And it's hard to purge that identity sometimes because it's so abundant and joyful. But there's so much more freedom on the other side of even that. Even though I've done those things, I'm not those things. And so that creates a total blank slate for constant change to come through and every day being so magical, more synchronistic. One thing I did the other day, I had my mom's ashes for 7 years and I decided to let go of them. I I felt like I was holding on to my mom with it. And I was like, what if I poured them in a creek and I just watched my mom go down a creek and then some kids were swimming in my mom and which felt weird, but I felt like I let go of my mom more in physical form because she's not here in physical form. And so I started being like, now I'm even more not my mom's stories kid, but more God's kid. And I just felt so blissful and so free and so open to just magic coming in. And it's been really magic for the last since then. It's getting higher and higher and higher.
Thank you. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Um, I can hear my audience who's listening to this now. And forgive me, a lot of them are going, Kyle is saying this, but Kyle was already set up for success. Kyle was already on Comedy Central. Kyle could afford to make these great changes. I'm stuck in XYZ. I am working 60, 70 hours a week. I don't have time for an hour or two of meditation. I can't tell you the last time I saw a break.
I would love to combine that person feeling wall to wall heard by me, that I understand that objection and that fear, because I do understand that happens. But I will offer, I believe, first of all, that I had those Comedy Central moments and everything, because in one way, even not consciously, I was still living this way. I did have an oblivion to my limitations. In other words, here's a thing that could have been a limitation. I was on stage at 12. And I could have easily thought, as a kid, you can't. And when I booked the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, I had no headshot, no resume, no agent, no experience, right? But I was oblivious to that was a problem. So when I went into the audition, I just was free. But imagine if I had in my head, I'm up against other actors with experience and they have agents and they have people, they're going to get it more. I just was oblivious and I walked in the room fully free. So, what I'm saying is, I hear that limitation's there. And even if you have a long history with evidence of why that limitation's there,
Yeah.
what my offer to everyone is I believe that what you are in the moment is more powerful than your past story, than your limitations, than everything that happened to you, than all of the historic limitations that you have. My belief, and I dare people to prove me right, because a lot of people want to prove me wrong and then fight for a limitation. But prove me right that you are God's kid, not the limitation. So it's up to you if you want to fight for a comparison that goes, well, easy for him to say. By the way, I will say, even though they can say that, you have no idea how much I've been through and how much pain I've been through and how many wounds and hell I've been through and been, I mean, on a bridge about to commit suicide at one point because my past story was ready to die. My past story wanted to die, and I believe it's never you that's truly suicidal. It's a pattern that's suicidal, or it's a pattern that's depressed, or it's a pattern that's stuck. So my offer to anyone is receive the idea, have the courage to receive, even if it's totally unfamiliar, that what you are is more powerful than your limited story, and what you're capable of, and what you're here to heal, you can. Join me and you can, even if you have a lifetime of you can't and join me in the unfamiliar truth of what you are versus the familiar lie of what you're not.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, and what got you off the bridge?
I was on the bridge and I just felt completely unloved and unseen and misunderstood. And my teammate Mary just called me and heard me. And I just think what I needed to do was tell her why I felt unheard and unseen. And she just listened. And that listening is the biggest factor because inside of us are a bunch of wounds that just feel unheard. And our doing has been made to stop us from being heard. And inside of us is a little kid. Inside of every one of us is a little kid that literally just feels unheard. And what Mary did when I was really hurting was heard me. And I just found myself going from, I need to do something about my pain, which literally looked like jumping into a semi on the freeway. That actually sounded better than the level of pain that I was in. And then Mary heard me, and some of that pain alchemized and came out. And that just gave me a little bit of hope that maybe I'm loved enough because I received her hearing and then I heard what I needed to say. And that listening helped some of that tension release. And then I've gone through, 4.5 years of working on hearing what hurts inside. And that always was replaced by more light, more God, more freedom, better content, better truth coming through, and a new world birthing through me healing the wounds. But at one point I had asked out loud to God, merge me with my soul no matter what the cost. And then life became chaotic for a long time so that I could heal. And it goes, you want to heal? Okay, here's everything in the world you don't want at the same time. And what I believe inside of us are deep fears of what we don't want. And because these fears are lies, they have to come to light. So there's two ways they can come to light. One, you can meditate and hear them and they come out internally. So you don't actually have to experience them. If you don't do that, you have to manifest it so you can experience it and finally let go of it because you're not worried about it happening once it happens. So if it happens, you finally go, well, I've had it, so I don't know what to do. And so you start letting go. So every fear in you is a lie. And it has to come to light in this time because it's a lie. So it can come out by you hearing it and it not being manifested externally, or you deny it and God makes it happen. So you can finally, I remember Conan O'Brien once saying, there's nothing more powerful than having your worst fear realized. Right? Like have your worst fear realized and then you're done. You're in surrender. You're not anticipating it happening. It happens, so you start letting go.
It's almost the same thing in a weird way as what I can call gold medal syndrome, or what I've called Jim Carrey syndrome. Now I can call it the Kyle C syndrome, which is what happens when you get absolutely exactly what you want.
You have no reason to grow because you just keep getting what you want. There's an analogy of like a kid in the candy store. You're like a kid in the candy store, and if you have a life of abundance, a lot of people think it's hard to leave lack. It is, but it's also very hard to leave abundance. And when you do, you're like a kid in the candy store because you got the next thing and someone else likes you, you got approval, you're making more money, you're doing well. And so you're dumb to what you're doing because you're just like, that's fine. It's supposed to be happening. And then at one point you go, well, I'm not fulfilled, but I'm the kid in the candy store. But the goal in life is to learn to leave the candy store and to leave Vegas and leave the slot machine and leave these kind of addictive things. And so life is making us do that right now by making it harder to make money for people and just instant abundance or things, or that relationship being the answer to your life might fall apart so that you can see that you're more. That connection to mom who's judging you now because of an argument politically, right? That's falling off so that you can find that you're enough even without that thing, right?
If you had it to do over again, I have an expression that came out of my first near death experience: kind, gentle, easy, good. I ask for all of my lessons to come to me to the universe. Kind, gentle, easy, good. I'm listening, I will say, so that I don't necessarily need, the truck coming around the bend at me. If you had it to do over again, would you have asked for it to be the complete and total chaos that give me what it takes, God, or would you have asked for it a different way?
I would say if I'm going to the past to do it, like if would I take it back? The answer is no. But if I was now choosing, I wouldn't go, let's do that again. Right. So that's one of the great things about lessons is you finally get out of a cycle and you can choose new. So I offer people to stop feeling regret about a past decision, but just go, okay, that's here. So I choose new, but surrender that you weren't supposed to make that mistake that you think is a mistake in the past. Like that was supposed to happen to teach you this thing now.
Okay. This is a goodie right here. How do we know if A, everything is here to serve us, or if B, there's something positive that could come out of it, but we did make a mistake? And I've got my air quotes up.
Mm. How do you qualify a mistake? Like, do you get punished later or are you in trouble? Like, in other words, do you get what I'm asking? Like, how do you quantify that it was a mistake?
Well, there's this. Okay, I'll use an example of mine, and I know the answer to this, but I'll use this example. We put a bid on a home a month or 2 months ago. Most gorgeous home we'd ever seen. Beautiful, loved it, perfect, beautiful. And because of a series of decisions we make, and then series of decisions that were out of our hand, we didn't get it. And we're going, oh, what happened? And did we make a mistake? And I'm going, there's obviously so much more at play, so much more. And then you come to a month or two later and you're like, wow, thank God that didn't work out. Now that all of this new evidence has presented itself. And I stayed in that place. The wounded inner child is it's pulling out the ruler, it's pulling out the chalk and the pointer and telling you all these reasons. But there's something better. But it would be very easy if I weren't at this place on my spiritual development, where you're at on your spiritual development, to go, wow, let's go old school. You really blew it again, Sandler. How does someone who's going on this journey and makes a decision that doesn't work out have that faith, that trust, that belief that it was part of their path? We could say, well, because it happened, I get it, versus kicking themselves.
Well, first of all, the implication was that place was your God, right? In other words, like we all do this where we go, that's the answer to my life. Now, if you get that, you don't need to go inward because you got the thing that's the answer. But I promise you, If that was driven by there's pain in here and the answer is the house, you'd move into the house and then still find that pain's here,
Here's
right?
Johnny.
Right. So that's the other thing. But like a lot of times we think this thing is the answer, and the universe is so cool that if your awareness goes up, it goes, okay, I'm going to make that not happen because you now have the capacity to cry out the you that thought this would be the answer, so that you can see more and more that you in the now is the answer, and really you can prefer where you want to live, but you could live anywhere. You can start, the higher you go up in vibration, the less the external circumstance matters, right? Like it might be a house you like, but the more you go up in frequency and feel joy, you could live in a trailer, you could live in anything you want, you could live in a car, because you start to, I don't recommend that, but like the joy is in
Well, we
you.
did a year in an RV, so we did the trailer.
Right. And that doesn't mean don't go for what you want, but I do think the reason we stress is we try to control what we can't and don't control what we can. So if you try to get the house and don't get it, and you open to this sentence that Michael Beckwith taught me that I think changed my life dramatically. Every time you don't get what you want, ask this question: what's trying to emerge out of me
Yes.
that I've never seen? So you start to go, oh, the me that thought this house would, whatever, maybe the house would heal regret of a thing you did in the past, or be the fix to your childhood. I've worked with a lot of people that I realize want to have kids to fix their childhood, right? It's not necessarily that they're called to have kids, but they say, I want to have kids to give them the childhood I didn't get. I recommend to them, let's heal your childhood and hear if it's a calling to have it, versus just have one so that that wound can be healed, because then you're just living a life of trying to not be your parents, and you're going to end up being them in the opposite way. And so what's trying to happen for you is inner. And I believe it was Michael Singer that said something like, if everything happening is leading you closer to what you are, it's worth it. So every good or bad is here to lead you closer and closer to what you truly are. So if you really can start to embody and understand that, you'll feel through the pain of not getting that house. So you don't deny that. Sit there and say goodbye to the one that thought they could live there, but ask, was there trauma under it? If I don't live in this house, then I am a failure, lonely, unloved, right? Like you get what I'm saying? Like that's a 3D goal anyway. So we get to want that, but at the same time we go higher.
Thank you. You were talking about earlier. Thank you about um, magic just keeps happening for you. Magic and synchronicities, and magics and synchronicities, and you talk about this concept of the future changes in the now, being present here in this moment, and not worrying about that moment. I'm going to use my term. Kind of reassembles the atoms, or put you onto a parallel universe that you never even could have imagined because you've stopped imagining.
One thing we've done is in the past, we've normalized that I have to know what my future is. That's a constant mental vision, whether people think they're locked in their career for a long term or that they're married. And what this does is it creates the illusion of security and a constant fantasy of the future that we've used as a default setting. It's not interested in what the now has. It's interested in, okay, I know that I have the job. I know that I have the house for the long term. I know that I have the life. I know that I have the relationship. Yet this is a lie too. Just because you have the contracts doesn't mean life isn't going to change. But we grab onto this fantasy of the future, and then we use it to feel complacent enough in the now, and that this feels so good that we don't have to change the now. But the great thing in this time is it's collapsing our certainty of the future. Many
Yeah.
people don't know that they have the relationship or the money or the job or the career. So what does that do? That causes your fantasy that you're grabbing onto, that's actually a subtle addiction, to collapse and make room for the fall apart. Now that we don't have that vision, to now the one that had that attachment and that security can collapse. What's that replaced with? More God, more magic, more now. So now the future would have to change because you're moving up in frequency and being what you are, and it'll make the future probably better because you're much more now, right? So this is a really profound change, because if you have a guarantee of the future constantly, you don't have to change. But if you don't have a guarantee of the future, you have to hear what's here. Then the heavy energies can fall out and you go up in frequency, right?
As you did that, you said, let go up. Your autofocus changed and it all shifted upwards. It was really, really cool. I,
That's the
I,
universe right there.
I have this image of you walking by a creek in Sedona or even going up Cathedral Rock and just saying, I let go, I let go, I let go. And it sounds like that's what this game is all about.
I find it's all about letting go and then letting it replace what's no longer serving you. And that everything that falls out, every time you let go of something physically, I find for me, if you're actively participating with it, the one that was addicted to it falls out. Then the trauma that was under it falls out, right? So a good example would be, let's say you're in a relationship that's not an expansive 10, right? It doesn't call to you. They aren't going up. You're not feeling like you're expanding with the person. It just seems like it's truly time to let go. And when you feel even scared to let go, you feel a sense of relief. Sometimes I'll talk to people, they're going to let go of this thing and it's scary, but there's a sense of relief, right? So when people let go, what happens is they let go of the thing outside. Then the pattern that was grabbing for the thing falls out. I'm going to really miss that person though, right? Then that falls out. Then usually a trauma comes to light that goes, my biggest fear is being alone, or my biggest fear is failing at a relationship, whatever. And then you become the now to hear that. So you lose the thing you're addicted to, the one that was addicted to it, and then the trauma that fueled the one that was addicted to it. And then you move up in vibration. So I find I don't let go of everything. I'm not letting go of my daughter. I'm not letting go of where I live. I'm not letting go of my career, and I'm not letting go of my team. I'm not letting go of my fiance. But I let go of what I can feel has a heavy weight to it. I can feel I let go. This is exhausting. This is addictive. This is old energy keeping it. I have to let go of that because everything of that will be replaced by what I can't see.
I call it, there's an expression that I use, which is I let go of the ruse of something. I let go of the ruse that I need to be attached to my daughter. I am attached to my daughter. I absolutely love my daughter. I'm smitten with my daughter. You're smitten with your daughter. And at the same time, I'm okay just as I am, just me right here now. Doesn't mean that I want to let go of her. No way, shape, or form. But I let go of the ruse or the
The
attachment,
stuck,
the
yeah.
heaviness of it.
Which is so good for your daughter, by the way. It's so, I had that the other day actually. My daughter and I are extremely close, but like I was just missing her yesterday and I
Oh,
felt some darkness come up from my body and miss her and I cried her out. And I noticed when I cried like some attachment to the story of dad or to her out. I ended up seeing her later in the day and she felt weirdly closer to me on her end. It was almost like I want to do a good job as a dad that's scared and want her to love me so much and want to have, like that fell out. And I was less attached and just letting her have all of her free will. And she was just like grabbing onto me more and loving me more. And I felt like the attachment that wanted to keep us attached closely, like wanting her to feel seen, like there was almost a pain that wants her to know how seen she is, that wants her to know how much her dad's there, but it was in pain, so it was like an insecure thing. Once I cried that out, I noticed yesterday when I spent time with her, she felt closer to me than on her end than I had ever felt. It was like my attachment to being close to her was in the way of her being close to me. Isn't that amazing? So what you're attached to is in the way of it happening.
so let's go real old school here. You'll probably follow me on this one. Seinfeld. And in Seinfeld episode with, oh my gosh, not Kramer, Costanza. Costanza is everything that he does in life seems to go wrong. Everything. And he doesn't have the job. He doesn't have the girl. He doesn't have everything, anything. And so he decides in this episode to do the exact opposite. Whatever he's going to say, if he's going to say right, he says left. If he's going to step forward, he steps back. And instead of being attached to doing it the way that he wants to do it, he does it the exact opposite way. And by the end, he's got a job with the Yankees. He's got the girl. He's got everything working out because he didn't do the very things he was attached to. It worked because he didn't try to make it work.
that episode would be a day of shifting from 3D to 5D. I would say George Costanza embodies the ultimate 3D energy. Just even though I actually didn't watch Seinfeld almost at all. It's not that it wasn't good, it was just late and I was into Roseanne instead. But like I I found George Costanza in the little I saw him to be, he's constantly frustrated and can't get what he wants, right? That is the embodiment of a 3D ego. And so that day was he ended up getting to a frequency where he's letting go, he's feeling okay with himself, he's not caring if it happens, and everything comes to him. That's a very 5D reality, right? Like that Wayne Dyer said, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And so if you are embodying a I'm whole being, I am loved, the match to that is bringing in only people that love you as much as you do. If you're trying to bring people into your life out of lack, you're saying deep down the subconscious is I don't love myself. So you bring in a bunch of people sometimes that don't love you to match that, right? And so yes, when you finally heal the wounds that need all these externals to fill yourself, let go of them, move up in your own vibration, what you're going to find is that you're whole and you don't actually need anything. And all of that stuff starts to show up in your life because that's the match.
Because you stopped chasing it because you already are that which you are chasing. You have a course coming up, and I love the name of the course. Is the angel you forgot about course? Who is the angel you forgot about?
Well, the premise of so we have a course this is something we've never done. That's like I think it's about a 9 hour huge course that we made $20. And because we made it $20, anyone can get it. And they can get it now. It's not coming out, it's out. And it's so exciting. And the premise of the angel you forgot about is that when we're in the middle of releasing, we forget always there is an angel you can grab onto like a ladder rung, whether it's God, whether it's a friend, whether it's a tree you're talking to, whatever, that will always move you up. And a great example of that is the story I shared earlier, which is when I almost jumped off a bridge. Mary showed up like an angel and called me and heard me. And it was like God sent in just an angel energy to like grab onto when all of my body was ready to jump. And so there was always an angel I could grab onto. And one of the things we do when we're struggling is we look at the lower circumstance and forget, okay, this is painful and hard, but I could grab onto meditation. I could grab onto a book. I could grab onto journaling. I could grab onto Jesus. I could grab onto Buddha. I could grab onto the universe. There's so many angels. And usually when we're in hell, we're looking in the mud versus the ladder rungs that are available to grab and go up. So the angel you forgot about is a course that actually happened. It was a live 2 day event. And I went through my own needing an angel I forgot about that you'll see in the course, but people are getting it all over the place. And it's literally partly because it's $20 for an entire course. And they can get that at kylecease.com/angel. And the slogan of this product is stop holding up the world and start being held. And we have identified ourselves as someone that has to do it all themselves, that has to hold up everyone else, that has to be there, and we're all depleted. And what we need to do, especially if you're in the energy of holding up everyone else, is going up your own ladder and start being held and receive that you are held by God. You are held by the universe. You are a magical being, and your job is to receive. This is why empaths' greatest power is when they receive higher. So even if things look horrible, you're $1 million in debt, everyone's leaving you, you feel isolated, you just don't want to live, whatever. Go higher. Don't focus on fixing the circumstance first. Heal by receiving that you're loved in the now and receive that there is an angel always you forgot about. It could be just you praying. It could be you meditating. It could be you asking a very safe, magical friend for help. There's a ton of angels we forget we have. And you can go up in vibration and life by grabbing the higher versus trying to pick up the lower, because everything that's trying to fall apart is trying to fall apart. So instead of trying to keep it back together, one thing people say a lot, this is a very 3D sentence, is I'm having a hard time keeping it all together. And my slogan is let it all fall apart. Don't keep it all together. Let it fall apart.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So here's where I'm at, the 2 minute version of where I'm at in life. we're going through beautiful changes. I've talked about that, kind of metaphorically rather than literally, but there are literal big changes coming up. And I have get to take even more walks and talks with myself. We'll call it down by the river, where I say, like I worked with an editor on a book earlier this year, and at the end of the day, at the end of the contract, it actually wasn't a book I wanted to release to the world, which was shocking and I'd say heartbreaking, but I'm very careful with my words, so I'm not going to use that. It was good guidance. Um, but what I want to do is walk and talk even more with myself and said, you said you want to get book out after book out after book after book after book. Do you need that? You said that you want to speak now on a live stage before this audience, before that audience, before that audience, before that audience. Can you let go of that? You said that you needed to be living in this place or this place, and can let go of that. I want to walk, and you are spurring me on. I'll say spurring me on to greatness, even more so to have the walks and talks with myself of what more am I saying that I need or that I want or that I have to have in life. To let go of that and let go of that and let go of that. To bring even more, in your words, more than even mine, even more of the light in. To give it the space for the light to shine through.
Well, and I would offer this too. So, and when I combine that with the story you told me of you lying on the couch and your mom saying, get a job or go do something, right? I can see what I believe is that's not only the purge of you writing the book right now, but it's the purge of your identity through your mother, right? In other words, the energy that says we're going to, it's probably going without even it's saying it like, and then mom will be proud. And then, right? And so fill in this blank. If I, to the egoic pattern that's scared and letting go, if I don't write these books and I don't write that next book, and if I don't speak in front of an audience or all those audiences, what happens? Like what's the deepest fear? Then I am.
Well, this is a tough one for me because I'm a tricky, slippery weasel because my higher self speaks loudly and clearly, but the egoic self first goes eek, and then I'm not worthy, I'm not worthwhile, I'm not. Oh, there's mom on the couch. It's both mom and dad, and I got to say, full disclosure, I love them very dearly, and they're very very proud of me, and I'm fortunate that I have both of that and that they're still around. Dad's a 46 baby. Actually, no, 44 and 46. Mom's 46. She's 44. Um, you're a bum.
You're a bum. Okay, so I want you to take a deep breath in. You just let the doer move away to hear a big fear, right? So I want you to take a deep breath in, if this is invited for my help here, and I want you to say
Oh,
to
I'm having fun with this.
say to the pattern. Now, by the way, when we say this, we're never aiming for it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, but
Oh,
what
yeah.
we're going to say to the pattern is you're going to say out loud to the pattern who's a scared boy,
Yeah.
you're allowed to be a bum in my body.
uh,
You want to say it out loud?
oh, sure. And this is me saying I love myself. I love to tap on my heart and say I love myself.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be. This is just such a funny one, Kyle. You're allowed to be a bum in my body.
Yeah.
That gets to be my new attunement. You're
Yeah.
allowed to be a bum in my body because what that represents actually is you're allowed to just be.
Yes. And you're saying to a pattern, because love is the only thing that'll heal everything. You're
Yeah.
saying, I love you even if you're homeless. I love you even if how about this? Tell it you're allowed to be unworthy in my body.
Ooh, you're allowed to be unworthy in my body.
You want to go even deeper?
Sure.
You could say, Mom's allowed to not love you in my body.
Ooh,
So we're undoing control, right? And we're not making it that way. You're undoing stuckness, right? What
yeah.
happens if you say that?
Done a lot of work on this.
Hmm.
Mom's allowed to be, I didn't catch the exact words. Mom's allowed to reject me or not be happy with how I am.
That works, yeah. And even though your mom only loves you, that if we say your mom's allowed to not love you, that's what the pattern thinks this is. It's mom's approval out of her ego, right? But worse, if we tell it it's okay if mom doesn't love you, then it can let go of an avatar of your mom, right? In other words, there's your actual mom outside of you, and then this is trippy, you have a mom inside of you, right? That you are trying so hard to get the mom inside of you to love you. But imagine if we just let that one go. because that's not real. It's just a thought. It's actually you looking like your mom. And so if we let that go, it's all different.
I love you, Mom. I love you, Kyle.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
and
the
it's
shift,
okay,
right?
Michael. It's okay, Michael, if you're not loved by your mom. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And
Yeah.
that's the shift. You saying I love you, mom, is so much bigger because if your mom's in an old consciousness and then you're outgrowing it, you're actually in a way energetically their parents, right? You're because you're going up in frequency. So imagine if you start to fill with all this God energy and release the remaining trauma that says I'm scared mom won't love me. And then you go up in vibration, you start to be the love that they never had. And so if she's like, you need to get a job, you could just see the wounded little girl in there that had that same pressure thrown on her or, whatever, and say, Mom, thank you so much for caring about me. And be like embodied that you don't need to prove to her that you're enough and just thank you, Mom, and hug her. She'll be crying that out, you know? Like, I know moms love to worry, and that's a beautiful thing about them, but like you could go up and show her, I'm in the man. And, and by the way, if then when you do write a book, it's out of guidance and not have to, and the frequency of the book will be way higher and it'll sell more.
Yes, 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 yes. Or, and even if it doesn't, and I have the vision of my next book is a book that's vibrating so high, you push it down on the table and it bounces right back up. You can't actually push it down, but you're not actually writing it to sell it. I mean, you put it out there to the word, but it doesn't, that's not even the importance. I have this energy I get to share with the world. And even if only one person being me reads it, that's great. Of course, I'll do everything I can, but I'm not attached to even that.
Yeah, that's the ultimate place to be. And the only reason I said you'll sell more is because the ego still sometimes wants, if I
Of
let go,
course.
it won't make them sales, right? But I do think some of the best books ever written didn't sell that many copies. Like some of David Hawkins' best books, my favorite David Hawkins books are like The Eye of the Eye and Discovery of the Presence of God. Those books are great and big, but they're vibrationally big. I feel like Discovery of the Presence of God is like 600 taking people to 800.
So that gets in, and we get to wind this. This is brilliant. So I have a dear friend who's a PhD in math who, when he stays with us, he tends to write a book after book after book. This guy can write a book in days, and it's just dumbfounding. And there's me who wanted to get out the perfect book, and I'm coming to this realization. The tumblings are falling into place at the moment. If the energy is in the right place and you're spilling it out from the heart, it doesn't need to be the perfect book. Maybe he's there in your life right now, turning out book after book to say, share your gifts with the world and don't worry, David Hawkins, whether it gets out to one, whether it gets out to a million.
Well, and how do we define perfect? Like you'll notice that always perfection has to do with how people perceive you or how much money you make or how well you do. Like in our idea of perfect is so crazy. Like people don't, for instance, necessarily see a forest as perfect because they want on their in their front yard these 90-degree perfect hedges that they like give flat tops to bushes, and then you just see this row of lollipop balls and flat tops, and we're like creating perfect right angles on bushes and like they're perfectly measured, and that doesn't look amazing to me because it's not natural, right? So it's like every 3 feet we have a perfect square of bushes, right? And then you look at what would consider chaos when you look in a forest, but we all finally let go. So perfectionism is just trying to shove everything into control, right? That isn't real.
I'll let you know what perfection is in anything that I write. Me. If it's just me, the book lost me. If
Yeah.
it's just me, yeah, and that is both literal and a metaphor for all of us. If we are just us, not our parents' wounds, not our parents' programmings, not society's wounds or programming. So, oh my gosh, don't get us started. But if we're just us right
Yeah.
here in the moment, isn't that
Yes,
everything? Isn't that
that's
good
true.
enough? Isn't that
So,
perfect?
so then true perfectionism is the now, which means whatever's happening is perfect. Whatever's hurting is perfect. Whatever's not true and is coming to light. Whatever they said about you, whatever happened to you, not getting that house, going broke, it's perfect, right? You can't change something from egoic force anymore. We have to accept, first of all, and then miraculous solutions start to show up once the energy is released that comes out that was addicted to those circumstances.
Amen. Amen, my brother. Amen. Amen. Any last words? First off, links one more time, and then any last words that you want to share with people, Kyle?
Yeah. So kylecease.com/angel is where they can get the angel you forgot about literally for $20. So if you like this hour and a half riff, wait till you see a 9-hour 2-day course that could have sold for $1,000, but is literally $20. And they can also go to kylecease.com/everything. That's where my Absolutely Everything Pass membership site is. This is insane. I do a live guided call and a meditation on Sunday. I do a giant Q&A every Wednesday. We do these hot seats. There's 1,000 hours of back content. Many of our courses that were thousands of dollars are all just in there, and it's $39 a month. And if they want, just grab a month and see how much this pays for itself. One of the biggest things I've heard about this product is I can't believe how much money I lose when I don't have it, because they're spending their money on more addictive things, beers, going out, different things. But when you go up in vibration, you start to realize you don't want to spend that much money, and you don't waste your money on, toxic things anymore. And you're not spending it to fix circumstances and all this crap. You go up in frequency and you find your truth. So the $39 a month takes care of itself over and over and over again. And if they want to get a year, that used to be $7.99, but we're doing a $2.99 special if they say the word water. So if they type in the word water, you can get a full year for $2.99.
There's that creek you're walking by. Water. I love it. How does it get any better than this? And any last words you want to share with people, Kyle?
Everything is perfect. You are infinite love. Trust what's happening. Listen to what's happening. If anything's suffering because of what's happening, listen to it. Know that magic is trying to happen. Know that you could participate in the world changing through you, because your vibration can counterbalance millions, and eventually your vibration can change the entire thing. The world outside of you is a mirror of the world in you. So undo your own polarity with yourself. Let go of what doesn't align. Trust, even if it's a family unit thing, if it's not your soul, you are God's kid. Allow yourself to receive the magic of what you are, and watch as God changes things through you more than your egoic self that's trying to do things out of force. Trust that you're loved, move up, and then join me on the Absolutely Everything Pass, or pick up the angel you forgot about and watch your life shift. Also, my book, I have 2 books, but my favorite one that I love to plug is The Illusion of Money: Why Chasing Money is Stopping You from Receiving It. So pick up either one, but that one is awesome. So trust me, you're moving up in vibration. You are abundance. You don't need to find abundance. You are secure. You don't need to create security. Move up in vibration and only move based on what expands you, and let go of what contracts you. And you're going to be shocked at what happens with your life.
Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? This has been beautiful. This has been amazing. I could keep talking and talking and talking, and we get to do a lot of this, I feel. But I cannot thank you enough, Kyle. This has been, I don't have the words for it. Again, just what I needed, just what everybody needed at just the right time. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you, man. This was one of my favorite interviews of all time. Thank you for having me. It was really awesome. I feel so excited about it. I can't wait to see it.
Woohoo!
Zapada!
And what does that mean?
That's just me doing a unique version of woohoo. So I'm not conforming to that, but I give a unique Kyle version. It's just like, ha!
And
I have
how
no
does it
idea if
get
that
any
even
better
went
than
through
this?
on Zoom. When I do a high note on Zoom, it doesn't come through. So the audience might have just saw, and that's it.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, trust, have faith, listen to that inner wisdom, and be in this magical, perfect moment now and nowhere else. And above, and yes, watch the magic happen. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Wow, wow, wow. Special, beautiful. Again, don't have the superlatives, don't have the words for how much I feel this interview was exactly what we needed now, right here, right at this very time. on that note, if you want to bring your energy up like you got in this interview each and every day, come on over. It's free, dailywoohoo.com, where I give you a daily dose of vibrational goodness or an attunement in story form each and every day to help bring your vibration up, 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 and way up. And if you want to hang out with like-minded souls, if you want to live at a higher level, if you want to have your head kind of above the clouds, building castles above the clouds, which is where they belong, experiencing the world, but not being stuck in the world, living the life of a mystic here on earth, then come on over to the School of Mystics. It's the link down below, 4 Wednesdays each month with your fellow spiritual beings going along this amazing journey together. Recorded as well as live, 4 Wednesdays each month. That's the link down below. And of course, last but not least, is it last? Maybe last, automatic writing. If you want to learn how to channel with your angels and guides, simply go to automatic writing. That's that link, automaticwriting.com. Here's a link to the next amazing show. Big thumbs up if you like this, because the more that we thumbs up it, the more that it gets shared with others based on the YouTube algorithm. I send all my love your way, and keep on shining bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? Lots of love, everyone. Lots and lots of love.